training for today. Okay. Everybody can hear me. So yeah, welcome to IBC's technical training. Today we are having our technical product training on BYD. Today we have Ivan from BYD, who's the main technical support guy there. Some of you might know him. So before we start with Ivan doing the presentation, I just want to give you an introduction on IBC, who we are, and yeah, let's begin. If everybody can see my screen, we can proceed. So IBC offers very premium products. We offer our own mounting structure and modules, which is our own IBC solar brand. And then we do offer Longi and Jollywood, which are also some of your premium modules in the market. And on the inverter side, we do offer SMA, Fronius, Victron, Goodwe, Attest, and SunGrow. Attest and SunGrow are the new products that we just recently taken into our portfolio. So please be on the lookout and just check our online portal to see what we have available. If you do not have access, please just drop in your email and Zane will then send you a checklist to fill in. Unfortunately, we do not sell to the public, so we only sell to installers. So this is your chance now to send in your email and Zane will be in contact with you to assist you with your login details. And we also do sell Solar MD, which is a local battery, and we sell also BYD, which is the main topic for today. So we're very looking forward to Ivan sharing information on BYD so everybody can have knowledge on the brand. So at IBC, we have Daniel and Helga as leading in the managing positions, Daniel, who's the managing director, and Helga is the office manager. And on the marketing team, we do have Zane and Carmaine. And then you can see below, you have the supply chain and sales administration and accounting. So if you do need information, at least you can see who you can contact or speak to. And proceeding further, sales managers, some of you might know the guys here, Leonidas, who is the regional sales manager for Joburg, and David Brown, who's the head of sales, Western Cape. And we do have Carl also as the sales manager for commercial solar and storage solutions. And Jason is up in Joburg as well with Leo as the technical sales and product manager. And we do have also Ridar in Cape Town, who is our technical sales manager. We do also have Brent, who is situated in Joburg. So if you do need assistance, these are the people you will probably have to speak to. Then on the technical team, you have myself in Western Cape and Vessel in Joburg. Honse and Kananela are also in Cape Town. So if you do need technical support, please feel free to reach out to one of us. And another thing, I just wanted to, we do have an online portal training every second week of the month. This is where you'll be able to understand and learn how to maneuver within our IBC online portal. And again, if you do not have access to our online portal, please feel to drop in your email. Zane will send you a checklist and one of our sales managers will be in contact with you. So this month we do have a special going on. So if you purchase a multi-plus-2 and a multi-RS Victron inverter, and you team it up with a low voltage Solar MD battery, you will receive a free 10-year warranty. So this is a very good deal. So please note that this is per system. So this comes in as a system. Let's say you have a full complete system for one client, then that stands. So it's not going to be per battery or per inverter. And then we also have another special, another great special here. So if you pay, if you invest in a SMA Sunny Island 8 with the BYD B-Box LVS battery system, you will receive a free SMA Sunny Board 3.6 inverter. I don't know where you'll see such a deal, but then yeah, please feel free to make use of that this month. It is a good deal. BYD is such a great battery. SMA is a great inverter, very strong and durable, and yeah, innovative product. So before we start, yeah, if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop your questions on the chat. Please note that most of you will not have access to have the capability to actually talk. You have been muted. But yeah, I'd like to give Ivan from BYD this chance to then give us an introduction and give us the training on BYD batteries. I'm so proud to have BYD in our portfolio. BYD has made a substantial contribution to the field of battery technology, particularly in the realm of electrical vehicles and energy storage. So we're happy to have BYD in our portfolio as IBC because we see that the company is committed to innovation and sustainability. Yeah, and is a key player in the transition towards cleaner and more sustainable transport, more sustainable energy. So Ivan, please do take over, and yeah, hoping to learn a lot from you. And yeah, that is all from my side. I will then just do this. Ivan, you can share your screen.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. We can hear you.
And can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect. We can.
Awesome. Hi everyone, my name's Ivan. I'm the Technical Support Manager for AfriPlus Energy. We're the official service partners for BYD in the Southern African region. And I'd like to introduce you to the BYD battery range. So the contents that we're going to be covering today is a short history about BYD, good reasons to choose BYD batteries, an introduction to the BYD battery range, technical information and training, commissioning and training, and troubleshooting, and also Q&A. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to post them in the question window, and they'll either be answered during the webinar or at the end of the webinar. So a little bit about BYD and who BYD is. So here's a short video about BYD. This is actually the BYD first headquarters there. They had an electric train that goes round the entire premises. It's so large that they've got the residents working on one side and the factory on the other side, and they've got an electric train that takes them from one side to the other. And here's some videos about the insides of the manufacturing process. It's all very automated, so there's not a lot of human interaction because the temperature and humidity has to be precisely controlled. Here we can see those are the new blade batteries. And there's examples of the new blade batteries, which are one of the safest batteries, well, if not the safest lithium-ion battery on the planet. Here's some of the tests that they do with the batteries: roasting tests, nail puncture tests, and crushing. And if the cells are safe enough for a car and car crashes and that sort of thing, it's perfectly safe to put in a garage. You can parallel and expand on your battery bank at any time. So here's the first. This is their first manufacturer. That's their offices there, and then the manufacturing's there, and then they've also got residents over there. And the place is so large, they've got that's their demo electric monorail train. Also, a little bit about BYD. It was established in 1995 and employs 600,000 people. So if BYD had the headquarters and the manufacturing in Cape Town, 1 in 10 people would work for BYD. So if you got on a bus, on average, 2 or 3 people would work for BYD. And they've just recently hit $63 billion in revenue. They're growing year on year. A little bit about BYD's coverage. They've got a footprint in Central and South America, Middle East and Africa, almost the entire planet, actually. Some history about what BYD is involved in electronics. So they manufacture parts for laptops, cell phones. Almost everyone's held a piece of electronics in their hand that's been manufactured in some way by BYD. Very well known in the automotive industry since 2003. One of the top players, if not the top player, in the electric vehicle market. And also got a long history in the renewable energy sector since 2008. And recently, they've also added rail transit to their portfolio. You've got a sort of some of those players that the BYD manufactures for. And here we can see BYD Auto's numbers. They were global #1. For example, when I visited Shenzhen, a lot of Chinese cities have no combustion public transport vehicles. So they have to be electric. So electric buses, electric metered taxis. And BYD manufactures about 80% of those for the cities. And so BYD's got an enormous footprint in that sector. So because BYD has a very big hand in the entire manufacturing process, from beginning to end, BYD can control the quality to a very high degree. And here we've got more stats on BYD commercial storage systems. This is more for the C&I space and the utility space. And here we've got the end-to-end supply chain of BYD. So right from sourcing the materials, development on chemistries, manufacturing, R&D of the parts, specifically the BMS, because on lithium-ion batteries, it's often the BMS that gives the issue. And because BYD's got such a big hand in developing and manufacturing that, BYD can control the quality to a large degree. And here's some of the awards that BYD has received and recognition for their contributions to the lithium-ion sphere. So here's some reasons why to use BYD. Short lineup of their portfolio. On our left, we've got the high voltage batteries, which have a capacity of the modules of the batteries from 5.1 kilowatt hours all the way up to 66 kilowatt hours on the HVS and HVM. On the LVS, so low voltage battery, you can have between 4 kilowatts all the way up to 256 kilowatt hours. LVL starts at 15.4, and you can go all the way up to 983 kilowatt hours, which is nearly a megawatt hour. And on your FlexLight, they're 5 kilowatt hours per module, and you can go all the way up to 320 kilowatt hours. BYD's footprint over the globe. And some of the awards that BYD has received. In terms of who buys the BYD batteries for storage, the German market is particularly fussy regarding quality and price, and BYD is the #1 player in the German market, which is a real feather in our cap. And here's brand awareness. BYD is particularly well known around the world in terms of brand recognition. And they did a survey on what was the favorite brand for installers in Germany, and BYD came top. I believe that reason was because of the reliability of BYD, so that installers could install and then they wouldn't have to worry about the site for a very long time in terms of the battery reliability. Here's some more achievements that BYD has in their portfolio. We've got a lot of recognition for the quality and efficiency of our batteries. This is a award that's done at the, I believe it's a university in Berlin, where they test the efficiency of various systems. It's the coupling between an inverter and a battery, and BYD comes top of those quite regularly. Other good reasons to choose BYD, because we've got LFP with cobalt-free batteries. Our batteries are incredibly safe and incredibly difficult to set fire to. It's almost impossible. There's nothing flammable in them. It's a non-flammable electrolyte, and there's nothing that can actually catch fire in the battery, short of the little pieces of plastic. In terms of like the tower designs, they're internally wired, which means it's basically electrical Lego, and it's quite often takes longer to unpack the batteries from their box than it does to make a tower. And here's our compatible inverters, but we'll touch more on that later. Here's some of the summaries of those safety devices. Even when the batteries get that high, there's nothing flammable in the battery to catch fire. So these are really quite safe batteries, with all the certifications, which makes shipping them around the world very easy. Here's some of those examples of the testing of the safety of the battery. There's the crush test. I do believe it's 100 tons. And there's the roasting and the nail puncture test. Although if your batteries are being crushed in your garage, I think there's more problems than just the battery safety. And even under all these conditions, there's an almost zero chance of the batteries catching fire. In fact, I would say zero. So far, globally, we've had 0 fire accidents because there is nothing flammable in the battery. I think I'd take this moment now just to explain a situation that happened once, where there was a 200 volt solar array, 5 kilowatts, and BYD batteries, and the solar array, it was a failed close, so that the solar power converter failed closed, so that 200 volt solar 5 kilowatt solar array was directly connected to the DC bus, and the BYD batteries were connected to it. And they're 50 volt batteries, and the batteries, three of the batteries managed to disconnect, and the fourth, it arced across. So the solar array was directly connected to the battery. So it's a 200 volt solar array connected to a 50 volt battery. What happened was all that energy that was in the battery and in the solar array got dumped into the battery. The cells ruptured, the electrolyte flowed out, and there were various internal, because the cells ruptured and expanded, that shorted on the chassis, and it was in the server room. And the people were working in the server room. So this happened on a weekend, and in the morning, people came back into that server room and worked in the server room. There was no flame, there was no fire. The batteries were in a metal cabinet that had paint on it. The inside of the cabinet, the paint had bubbled. The outside of the cabinet, the paint looked new. So in terms of safety, even when absolutely everything goes wrong, batteries are still incredibly safe. And on Monday, they got back into the server room and carried on working. In terms of flexibility, you can start at 4 kilowatt hours and you'll work all the way up to 903 kilowatt hours. So we've got a battery for every scenario. You can extend at any time, and we've got lots of flexibility in terms of temperature. In terms of compatible inverters, these are some of the compatible inverters, and that list grows year by year with a very wide range of applications. In terms of applications and getting logs and things, we've got the mobile app, which is used for commissioning on site and can also upload logs to the server. We've got the remote monitoring system, which is an online monitoring system where you can log onto your profile and get logs off the batteries yourself. And we've also got the B-Connect Plus, which is designed for Windows laptops, so you can get logs off the batteries. When it comes to upgrading firmware and getting logs off the batteries, everything's done through the Wi-Fi. There's no special cables needed. And for the remote monitoring, all you need is an internet connection to your battery. Speaking of commissioning, this is the app that you use. It's called B-Connect 2.0, and it's available for Android phones and Apple phones. Now we're just going to look at the BYD battery box family. This is a quick summary again of what's available. And I'd like to introduce everyone to the tower design. It's IP55 tower design, which means if you've got a site that requires a bit more protection for your batteries, the tower design is a really good option. They also have an incredibly low profile when it comes to putting things that, supposing you've got low space, that you've got to mount inverters on the wall, you've got in a garage, you can get a lot of batteries in a small space with this, and they can fit very snugly against the wall, which is perfect if you need low profile installations. So here we've got the HVS, which is a high voltage battery. So the difference between high voltage and low voltage batteries is as you add modules to a high voltage battery, your voltage goes up. So that's different from a low voltage battery. I'm going to touch on that again. So your smallest battery bank that you can make with the HVS is 5.1 kilowatt hours, and you can go all the way up to 12.8 kilowatt hours in a single tower, and you can parallel 3 towers to make 38.4 kilowatt hours. You do have to have all the towers the same height, because the voltage in your tower is determined by the number of modules in your tower, and you have to make sure that all 3 towers have the same voltage. Here's some of the differences between high voltage and low voltage batteries. This is common to a lot of high voltage and low voltage batteries, where here we can see your nominal voltage of your low voltage battery stays the same, but your maximum output current goes up. Whereas on your high voltage batteries, as you add modules, your maximum output current stays the same, but your voltage goes up. You also have to keep an eye that the inverter that you're connected to can work with the voltages that the batteries are set to. So that you have to make sure that the operating voltage of your battery bank is within the operating voltage of your inverter. And we've got the HVM, which is very similar. It's 2.76 kilowatt hours per module, and the HVS is 2.56 kilowatt hours per module. And you can start with a tower of 8.3 kilowatt hours and go all the way up to 22.1 kilowatt hours in a single tower. And you can parallel 3 towers for 66 kilowatt hours. Also IP55. And here's some of the compatible inverters, high voltage inverters, and that list is growing year by year. Next, we've got the LVS, low voltage battery. And unlike with the high voltage batteries, we have to have the towers the same tower, same number of modules in a tower. With low voltage batteries, you don't have to do that. Here's an example of 6 modules in a tower. You can have a single tower of 6, but when you parallel towers, maximum number of modules you can have in a tower is 4. And you can start at 4 kilowatt hours, and you can parallel LVS all the way up to 256 kilowatt hours. Here we can see the maximum output current. The 0.8 C battery is continuous, and they do have a peak current for 5 seconds. You can parallel them up to 256 kilowatt hours, which is 64 modules. You do need 1 PDU per tower and 1 BMU per battery bank. So you do need 1 BMU per low voltage battery bank. I have no idea where that sound comes from. So the LVL, very useful for everything from residential all the way to commercial systems. So you've got 1 battery module, 1 battery bank can do 15.4 kilowatt hours, and you can parallel those all the way up to 64 modules, which is 983 kilowatt hours. If you've got an SMA cluster system, you can have up to essentially 12 megawatt hours on a single system, because you can put 1 megawatt, well, essentially 1 megawatt hour per cluster, and you can have up to 12 clusters. So if you're looking for very large storage, that's also an option. There is actually a system installed in Johannesburg that's got 64 LVLs on one site. It's a Victron system. It's got, I do believe it's 12, 15 kVA Victron Quattros. So there is actually a system that is installed at that size, and it's worked perfectly since the day it was installed. You can see it's a 0.8 C battery with maximum output current of 250 amps. And you do need 1 BMU per battery bank. Next, we've got the LV Flex Lite. This is by far the most popular battery at the moment in BYD battery owned in South Africa. You start at 5 kilowatt hours per battery module, and you can parallel those up to 320 kilowatt hours, which is 64 modules. It's a 0.7 C battery, continuous, and usable energy of 5 kilowatt hours. So BYD, when BYD specifies an energy for a battery, that is the usable energy for the battery. So when comparing BYD batteries to other batteries, please keep in mind that our usable energy is our nameplate energy. You bought the whole battery, you can use the whole battery. Next, we can see where you can install them. You can install them in almost any orientation, horizontally, vertically, in custom racks or server cabinets. They are 3U batteries, so they do fit in server cabinets. You do need the deep cabinets though. The freestanding ones, the 22U, fits perfectly. And you can use them for commercial, residential, and many more applications. In terms of energy capacity, on our left, we've got the old Battery Box Pro 2.5, which is also a 3U design. And on our right, we've got the Flex Lite, which is 5 kilowatt hours. And in the same space, BYD's managed to basically double the amount of energy that's available. So there's been a lot of research in that regard. And here's some of the compatible inverters for the LVS and LVL and Flex Lite. The low voltage inverters. Solus is a new addition, and Selectronic and Studio aren't very popular. They're quite popular in Europe, but they are available in South Africa and they are compatible. Victron, SMA Day, and SunSync are generally the most popular. Just in terms of how to wire your batteries, on a high voltage, every high voltage tower needs a BCU, and then the battery modules. Then for the LVLs, you need 1 BMU per battery bank. And then for your LVS, you need 1 PDU per tower and 1 BMU per battery bank. Here's a quick summary of the specifications for the BYD Flex Lite. And now we've got the new and interesting addition to the family. It's called the FinDreams battery. It's a 5 kilowatt hour battery that's going to be available very soon. You can stack them 4 high. It is very similar shape to the LVS, but with external wiring. It's not the internal wiring of the LVS. It's 5 kilowatt hours per module, and you can put in parallel 32 of those, which is 160 kilowatt hours. Here's some specifications for the new battery. It's usable 5 kilowatt hours. Apparently, it's going to be at a really good price. Your maximum continuous charge and discharge current is 70 amps per module, which is 0.7 C. But the nice thing is your peak charge and discharge currents are 200 amps. So that means on your low voltage batteries, typically you have to have a minimum battery bank size to have the system working. Typically, you're speaking a ratio between 1 kVA of inverter to about 1.5 kilowatt hours of battery, up to maybe sometimes 2 kilowatt hours of battery. So it's a ratio of 1 to 1.5 or 1 to 2 kVA inverter to kilowatt hours of battery. These you can install almost 1 to 1. So you require a much smaller minimum battery bank starting size, which is very nice. Here's how it's installed. Mount it to the wall, and you can put up to 4 towers up on top of each other. Here's the wiring. You won't be able to daisy chain these batteries because they can carry a huge amount of current. So, for example, your bottom battery does 70 amps, and if you daisy chain them, it goes 40, goes 70, 140, 210, 280. So daisy chaining can really sort of cause a lot of current to flow through a connector, and those connectors aren't designed for daisy chaining. So you have to take each cable to a common connector or a bus bar. In terms of wiring, no BMU is required for these batteries, and they are auto programming, so you don't have to commission them. So the inverter connects to the battery, and then the comms daisy chains from there. And there's the earth connections. It's always very important to have good earth connections. It stops any issues with communications.
Sorry to stop you on these. Just wanted to ask you something. I think this is a very good product here, and I think maybe a few people will be interested to hear it out. So on these batteries, I don't need the BMU.
No, you don't. No. So the inverter connects directly to the battery.
Nice. Okay. And then the cable size recommendation for these batteries?
It's probably going to be 16 square. I'm guessing it's because they've got the same constant current as the Flex Lite. It might be 25 square. It's 16 or 25 probably. I'm going to guess it's 16. But I don't have the finalized spec sheet yet. And yeah, so I mean, it's a very nice battery. It auto configures, and it does have a sort of Morse code to give you error, to show its error. I'm really looking forward to this battery coming to South Africa. It's going to be an exciting time in space when it arrives. Turn on, you just turn on one of the batteries, and switch off, you just hold any battery and then of the first tower, and then it'll turn off. And here's some of the compatible inverters. That list is growing very quickly. And more FD FinDreams batteries will be available. They're in development of several others. I hear they're in development of a high capacity, high voltage battery for your CNI space. I'm really looking forward to seeing if that comes to fruition. That's another interesting space to keep an eye out for. And so here we've just got a quick summary of the of the batteries and inverters. Sorry, of the batteries. And some of our social media links. Manuals and resources. So all of our information is available on our BYDbatterybox.com/downloads website. We've got technical information, service guidelines, operating manuals, data sheets, limited warranties, quick start guides, and certificates. And then under the general product files, we've got Reconnect Plus 2.09. That is the Windows laptop application to get logs and that sort of thing off the batteries. So minimum battery bank sizing. One of the big reasons why you need a minimum battery bank size is one, you've got inrush currents on your loads, but you can control those. So supposing you've got a motor and your motor has inrush currents, but if you don't have motors, you won't have, or other inductive and capacitive loads, you won't necessarily have inrush currents. So you can you'd be able to size the bank according to your loads. But there's the other reason why you need a minimum battery bank is the interaction between the inverter and the grid. Because a lot of these inverters run in parallel with the grid. For example, when the inverter is running normally, your grid is 230 volts 50 hertz, your inverter is 230 volts 50 hertz, and they're both generating, and there's a relay in between. And what happens is when the grid dies, if you look at it a very short time frame, the grid's dying, your grid is at 120 volts 30 hertz or whatever, and your inverter is still trying to make its 230 volts 50 hertz, and the relay hasn't opened yet. And in between that grid dying and that relay between the grid and the inverter opening, a lot of power flows out of the battery to the grid. So that's another reason why you need a minimum battery bank size to ensure that everything runs smoothly, is because the inverters can pull a lot of power from the batteries at that moment. Here's some examples of the minimum battery bank sizing. And here's an example of the Victron BYD site. Some more examples of those stats. The on-grid is designed for Europe, where they've got a stable grid and they've got no backup. So please don't use the on-grid recommendations for South Africa. They're designed more for Europe, no backup, stable grid. Same for the Victron guides. In terms of BYD installation, it's always advisable to wear anti-static shoes or safety boots, and please don't wear any metal objects that can short stuff and things, and appropriate PPE. Please always refer to the quick start guide, quick install guide, and please have a clear working area without any sort of slippery surfaces or anything like that. You don't necessarily want to trip when carrying a battery. Please make sure the battery is off or dead when working and or installing it, and please keep the cardboard box until the system's up and running, because if there's an issue, the battery has to go back, which is rare, then it's easy to ship. And also please ensure that all your lugs are tight. I have come across a couple of installations where a loose cable has caused an issue. So it's always a good idea to, before you turn on your battery bank, just go around the whole battery bank and just tighten everything. Yep. When opening the battery, please ensure the battery is in good condition physically, and just look for any mechanical and water damage. And if there are any issues, please take photos and the serial number. Please always lift the batteries in a safe manner. That's the nice thing about BYD batteries, is they're modular. So I had one installation, I do believe it was 40 LVL. It was, I think, yeah, it was 40 flex lights, and 2 people did that whole install, and that was about 200 kilowatt hours. And the other installation, which was the 64 LVLs, 4 people carried those batteries in by hand. So because the batteries are modular, you, instead of one large battery, if anything goes wrong, you don't have to ship the whole big battery back. Quite often on the LVLs, I just send parts to the installer, because there's the cells and the hardware and the electronics, and the electronics can just get changed out. And yeah, and because it's a modular, 4 people can install a megawatt hour without any cranes or lifts or anything like that. Please don't short circuit the battery bank when it's running. The batteries can deliver an enormous amount of current, and please use a Victron Type A CAN bus cable for the Victron systems. The issue there is that pin 7, if you're making a cable with just pin 7 and 8, your crimp doesn't sit square because it's only pin 7 and 8, it wobbles one to one side. Yeah. And then please ensure your battery and your BMU have good earth connections. Having a bad earth connection disrupts the communications. It's rare that it does disrupt it, but it is once every 3 months, for example, it might go out. And it is recommended to connect the BYD battery to the internet. In terms of how to install flex lights, you can have up to 4 in a tower, and then you can have up to 64 in parallel. So here again, with the flex lights, it's not recommended to daisy chain the cables. I have seen it happen a few times. It's just not recommended because of the amount of power these batteries can deliver. You can end up with a lot of current going through one connector. It's always recommended to go to a common point or a bus bar. Sorry, my laptop decided to freeze a bit there. Another good option is a flex light cabinet. All those cables there are pre-wired. So all you have to do is put the batteries in and connect. It's recommended sort of 70 square cables with a 250 amp fuse at the back. It's the new versions don't have wheels. This is just a demo box. The new ones have got not those feet, but like really sturdy feet. And here are the specs of that cabinet, and they are available from IBC. In terms of commissioning, so BYD have got a lovely feature. So I'm not sure if you can see my screen at the moment. Let me just, sorry, I'm just going to see if I can. I'm going to have to share something different. Type screen. Okay, sorry, it's just a bit clunky here. So you can see what's wrong with that picture. So this happened in an installation. So the batteries are wired at the bottom, the inverter's wired at the top. And what happened is everybody wired that, they turned the batteries on, and now when you turn on BYD batteries, it's best to always keep the fuses closed between the batteries and the inverters so that the batteries can test the system to see if it's safe. So they've got a BYD battery that a pre-charge resistor in them. So what will happen is the battery will turn on. Well, to turn on fully, the battery will the brain of the battery will turn on. It'll go into a pre-charge mode and it'll test. And what it'll do is it'll try with a resistor, so very little current can flow, and try and get the DC bus up to 48 volts. And if it detects a short circuit or an inverter connected incorrectly, it won't turn on fully, and it will give a short circuit error. So that is one of the really nice things about a BYD battery, is it can see what issues there are on the battery. So for example, if this was another battery bank of another brand, there would have been smoke and flames. But because it's BYD, it detected the error, the cables were fixed, and then batteries were turned on and everything ran as normally. So that's one of the really nice advantages of the BYD batteries, is if there is an issue, if cables get mixed with that, or there's a short on the DC bus, the batteries will say, before they turn on, they'll say, look, there's an issue. You can sort out the issue, and when everything's sorted, the batteries will turn on. Very, very nice feature of BYD batteries. So that's why we always recommend keeping all the fuses closed between the battery and the inverter before turning the batteries on. It prevents the inrush currents of the caps charging up, and the batteries can test the whole system. When turning the batteries on, please ensure the inverter's off, the solar is off, and the AC to the supply to the inverter is off. Because a lot of inverters power the DC bus when the grid or the solar is there, and when you turn the BYD batteries on, they want to test the DC bus before they turn on, and then for that they need a sort of dead bus. So that's why we ask for that step. To turn the BYD battery bank on, you just hold the button on the first battery and everything will turn, all other batteries will turn on. And to turn the battery bank off, just hold the button on the BMU for 5 seconds. The BYD battery bank will not give out voltage until it is configured correctly. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if you're turning on your battery and nothing happens, it's probably because of that. Please ensure the BMU and the batteries have good earth connection. My apologies for repeating it so often, but it is very, it's a good thing to keep an eye out for. And that's also for almost all batteries. If you've got comms issues, it's almost always the earth connection. And if the BYD battery, the BMU has got the feature where after 5 hours, the Wi-Fi will turn off. So if you get to a site and you want to update the firmware and things and everything's running smoothly, but the Wi-Fi is off, you just hold the BMU button for 2 to 2.5 seconds, and then just wait 15 to 30 seconds. Holding the BMU button for 5 seconds turns the battery on. So if you can please not hold it too long, then that'll be great. So here we've got the commissioning. So the first thing to do is to go to the Google Play or App Store and download bConnect. And then once you've downloaded it, please accept all the privacy policies and give it all permissions that it requires, and then it will download the firmware. In order to download the firmware, you have to be connected to an internet connection. So it's possible to download the firmware before you go to a site to commission. So for example, if you're going to a site that's got very bad Wi-Fi or no Wi-Fi or no internet, you can download the firmware before going to site, go to site, and then upload the firmware. When you're on site, you just click skip on the download firmware section. So after you've downloaded the firmware, you go to check Wi-Fi settings, and then you connect to the battery Wi-Fi. The battery Wi-Fi will be BYD dash and then 4 letters. Those letters can be found on the side of the BMU, and the password is BYD B-B little o little x. So it's caps BYD B-B little o little x. And if you're configuring the system, you just say, hey, yes, I want to configure the system, and then you synchronize the time, and then you choose the inverter. This is more for record keeping. The most important step is selecting the right model of battery and selecting the right number of battery modules. Those are very important steps. And another step which I sort of feel I should mention here is when expanding on high voltage batteries. Because the batteries are in series, it's always a good idea to have the batteries at the same SoC when expanding. So for example, when batteries are low voltage batteries, they're all in parallel. So if you put a 100% SoC battery with 50% SoC battery, the 100% SoC battery can discharge into the 50% SoC battery to equalize the voltage in the SoC. Whereas if you're in series, which the high voltage batteries are, there's not that possibility. So it's always a good idea to make sure the voltage of your modules is all the same when you expand. And if you don't necessarily have the ability to do that, it's best to make sure that your existing bank is at 30% SoC, because the batteries almost always ship at 30% SoC. And then your configuration, the next step would be to choose your application. These are more for record keeping. It doesn't affect the functionality of the battery. Next, you'll get the summary, and then there's all the settings that you've chosen. Just a little note: if you can please remove the charge voltage limits on DVCC on the Victron systems. You won't be able to get the batteries balanced if DVC is on. So if you can remove it, sort of, there is a document on Victron site that explains how to minimize high voltage warnings, but in doing so, it disables the battery's ability to cell balance and SoC calibrate. So it's best to remove the charge voltage limit on DVCC. Please note the SOC of the battery might not be accurate before a full charge. If expanding a battery bank or installing a new bank, please charge the battery to 100% for 2 hours after installation. And please keep the battery on for 15 to 20 minutes while the firmware updates. The batteries might require to be turned off and back on after commissioning. It's very rare, but that needs to be done. And then after you commission the battery, it'll give you a summary page. So here we can see a battery that's operating normally. You can see the battery output voltage is the same as the battery voltage. And here we can see the minimum maximum cell voltages and the minimum maximum cell temperatures. This is very useful to see if your battery is operating properly, and if there are any error messages, they'll appear up at the top here. So in terms of troubleshooting, here's the contact details for myself and Afriplus. And these are just abbreviated steps. Please see the quick install guide or the full guide or the service guideline. So in terms of troubleshooting, please, if there is an issue or anything, please safely turn off the AC input, the inverter, the solar, and the BYD batteries off. Check all the earth connections from the battery. Check the BMU and the batteries are connected to the same earth with the multimeter, just buzz it through. And check the comms cables are secure. Wiggle comm cables gently just to check everything's fine. This is on for the flex light. And check all the power cables are connected and properly crimped. And check all the fuses between the battery and the inverters are closed before turning on the batteries, please. And please don't turn on the fuses after the battery. Close the fuses after the battery's been turned on. Okay. If you can check the comms cable between the BMU and the inverter is correct, and then ensure the BMU has got the latest software, latest firmware. And then it's best to wait about 15 to 20 minutes after commissioning to allow the firmware to load onto the BMU and the batteries. And then that's just a troubleshooting checklist that we're going through, and then you just turn the batteries off, and then turn the batteries back on, wait 5 minutes, and then that's a good troubleshooting process to make sure that everything's sort of been done. And then if there are any issues with the batteries, because all the batteries are modular and you can remove one battery and the rest of the bank can carry on going, you'll have to recommission it for the right number of batteries. And you can test the batteries in isolation if there is an issue with the battery. And then and here's the error codes on the batteries. They're sorted into various categories. I've just sorted them into categories. So some error codes installers can do things with and some can't. So for example, short circuit or DC reverse connection, that is something that can possibly be sorted on site, where if there's a short or anything on the system, the battery will detect that. And same for the pre-charge failure. Any of these error codes, and that's not something that the installer can necessarily do on site. Either parts will have to be sent to them, or the battery will have to come to us. And then there's this error code also the installer can do something with, which is the BMS and BMU communication failure. Here we've got the BMU error codes. The BMS error codes and the BMU error codes are different. So here we can see the BMU error codes. A lot of them reflect what the battery is seeing. So for example, pre-charge failed is very similar to what the battery is showing with the pre-charge failure. Address distribution failure means that the BMU is commissioned for a number of batteries that it's not seeing. So for example, it might be more or less. System initialization failure means something's not working properly, and that's a sort of a catch-all. And BMS failure is almost always issues within the battery that need to get sent to the workshop, but you do have to look at the error code on the battery to double check. BMS and BMU communication failure is a communication issue between the BMS and BMU, and almost always this is a common one. Communication with inverter failure, so the batteries won't fully turn on until they can see the GX device they won't be able to see the inverter. If they don't see the inverter or GX device, then they won't turn on fully. They'll go into pre-charge mode and won't go from pre-charge mode into fully on. So that's why it's best to, on Victron systems, for example, to leave the inverters off until the GX device wakes up, because the GX devices typically take a very long time, and they might even take longer when you're waiting for them. And configuration not correct is probably the wrong battery type has been selected. In terms of the BConnect Plus, this is the laptop application. And I'm just going to go through this very quickly. So it's best to download it from the BConnect Plus /downloads file. You might have to scroll down a little bit, unzip it, and then run the BConnect Plus executable. And then our password is BYD, well, caps BYD B-B-O-X. And then after you've opened the program, you might want to go log onto the battery. The battery Wi-Fi will be BYD dash and then four digits and numbers, and the password for that will be caps BYD B-B-o-X. Oh, pardon me. So on your home page, you just connect and refresh, and that will sort of sync and log with the battery. And then you've got a system status in the bottom right. Configuration. You can also configure on the home page over there to configure the batteries. So, for example, if you've got an issue with a cell phone or anything like that, and you've got any issues whatsoever, you can also use the laptop to commission the batteries. In terms of updating the battery firmware, you can also update the firmware with the BConnect Plus laptop application. It's a Windows laptop application. On the update tab, you'll have to disconnect from the battery to do a download. You'll have to connect to your internet. And then when you reconnect to the battery, you'll have to go through the same step of going to the home, connect and refresh. And then you'll be able to start the firmware update. You can also get cell voltages from the batteries on the diagnosis tab. You can go to each battery and get the cell voltages, and you can also save them. And then you can also get the logs of the BMU and each battery. And we also be able to save them. A good number is 500 to 1,000. And you can also send the logs to the factory with using the upload logs button. And there's also BYD remote monitoring. This is on its way. It is being, I'm just having my profile activated, and I'll be able to share pictures soon. And just a couple of current issues that we've got. SunSync issues. There is a issue where the SunSync loses communication with the battery. It is a SunSync issue. So the solution there is to update the firmware on the SunSync, factory reset SunSync, and reprogram the SunSync. And in terms of other issues, there is an issue with Victron systems with solar. It is very rare, but if you do have an issue, the best thing to do is to just update the firmware. The firmware releases for that issue have come through, so you can just download them and upload the firmware to the batteries, and then everything should be fine. And then there's also a feedback page. If you want, you can download. You can click on the link to give you feedback. There's also a nice QR code. And thank you very much, everyone, for attending. If there are any questions, I am available. And thank you very much to IBC for allowing me to share and present.
No, thank you for that presentation, Ivan. Yeah, there is a question here. I was just busy typing it down. Jason Campbell asked if you can update the Flex Lite firmware via BYD tech support. So on that, the installer can do it, but I don't think it's necessary to have technical support to a firmware update for you, but they still can do it.
So in terms of if the BMU is connected to the internet, the firmware update is only able to be done by the factory. But if you've got the serial number of the BMU, it can be done remotely.
Okay, perfect. Is there something an installer can do? Hit the firmware remotely.
Remote update of the firmware, no. But on-site update of the firmware is very easy. It just requires a cell phone and the BConnect app.
Okay. And I see. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think I think that should be satisfactory to Jason's question. I hope Jason, you can let us know. And then there is another question here from Ridar. Let me just give you Ridar. You can unmute yourself. I think you can ask the question.
Hi there, Ivan. How's it?
Hi, how's it going?
I'm good, man. So a while ago, I had a client ask me about the FlexLight warranty in South Africa. So just the
Yes.
very first part of the warranty, which is kind of confusing. So if you can just elaborate on that, where it says the usable energy of products is less than 50 kilowatts in total in South Africa.
Above that, the commercial warranty applies. I am actually going to make a note. Actually, let me just make a note to actually go. Hang on, let me just make a note. I'm going to contact the factory and just ask them to just change that.
Yeah, please, if you can just have something in writing so that I can just give these people some good news.
Yeah, no. So in terms of the warranty, it's I can send you the commercial warranty. Commercial warranties for 50 systems with more than 50 kilowatt hours. It's not that the warranty is not valid. It's just that it's a different warranty.
So even if it's in a residential place and they use more than 50 kilowatt hours, would the commercial warranty then kick in?
Yeah, it's just that's but they're very, very similar warranties.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can ask, how many kilowatt hours are you installing?
They didn't say. They just were looking at what the battery says, up to 64 of those flick lights. And that's obviously a lot more than the 50 kilowatt.
Oh yes, yeah, that's 320. But typically speaking, the residential warranty would apply up to 50 kilowatts, and then the commercial warranty takes over. But they're very similar warranties for the.
So it just takes over then. Okay, so it becomes a commercial warranty then.
What I'd like them to actually say, for systems above 50 kilowatts, please see the commercial warranty. That's what I'm
because
going to
it
ask
says
them
specifically in South Africa. So
so they've got the South Africa warranty, and they've got like a rest of world warranty. I'm just looking at. Let me just look. So you're asking about the Flex Lite, yes?
Yes, that's correct.
Limited warranty. Okay, so there's the residential warranty, and then there's the Flex Lite limited warranty in Africa. One moment. So so the warranty residential Middle East and Africa is 5 years. In the rest of the world, basically, and in South Africa it's 10.
Okay.
Let me just check. Limited residential South Africa is 10 years.
Sorry,
Yes.
Ivan. So the workmanship is 10 years for BYD.
So I'm just looking at the right now. Limited product warranty.
10 years. Wow, that's nice.
BYD warrants the product to be free of defects in materials and workmanship for 10 years from warranty start date. Subject to exclusions and limitations set out below. So it's a warrant. So a lot of other batteries they warrant for it's like 10 years warranty on the cells and 2 year on the BMS. And BYD's like it's 10 years on everything.
Wow.
Yeah, that's very nice. I think I don't.
Okay, thank you for that, Ivan.
Oh, pleasure.
Very limited on workmanship materials.
But if we can just have something to elaborate and explain that, like you say in writing, that it just moves over to the commercial, because they're actually looking for me to put something in writing that comes from BYD.
What
not
I'll do,
something that I say.
If you can, okay, if I can grab your email address,
yeah,
and then I'll actually send you both warranties. It'll be
Perfect.
commercial, the residential and the commercial.
Perfect. Thanks.
Perfect. And it is available on the. I'm going to be sending everybody a copy of the presentation, and it is available at the bydbatterybox.com/download section.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Irene, for that. Looking at the time. Okay, apologies everyone for the delay. But yeah, anyway, thank you for the presentation. Yeah.
What is the recommended connection configuration for BYD Flex 5 on the 3-phase SMA? For example, I have a 20 kilowatt SMA inverter. Okay, so I assume that's a grid tie with 3 Sunny Islands 8s. Okay, so there's so for for SMA Sunny Islands specifically, so BYD's got minimum recommended battery bank sizes for various inverters to ensure that the inverters work well. Victron, you can quite often get away with slightly less. SMA, you can't really get away with less. So also on the bydbatterybox.com/download section, they've got okay, just getting there. Okay, hang on. bydbatterybox.com/downloads. Here we go. And it's under technical information. So here's the minimum recommended list. And for SMA, it's a flex light. It's 12 flex lights. So I do believe that's exactly that was the question. Is can you connect 12 BYD flex lights? So you need a minimum of 12 BYD flex lights per cluster. I have had. Sometimes you can get away with less. I don't recommend it if you want to be sure that everything's going to work.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I don't think we do have any more questions. Any more questions? Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for participating, and I'd like to thank IBC for giving me the opportunity to present.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ivan. It was nice having you here, and looking forward to the new product. The FD, what's this again? The FD hyphen
FD-BAT.
FD-BAT. Yeah, so looking forward to that. Hopefully it can, reach into another market that BYD hasn't entered into, especially with the pricing. So yeah, thanks everyone for participating. And I mean, one of the things I think I took here was looking at BYD's safety features. I think that was the main highlight, like how you guys were able to minimize the risk of thermal runaway and improve the overall stability of the battery, making it suitable for various applications. It's a very innovative battery, very innovative brand. So thank you for that. And hopefully everybody saw that. And yeah, if there's no more questions, we can then just call it the end of the training webinar.
Awesome. Thank you very